Alright, today we're going to do some plant propagation. We end up having some lavender cuttings here. We'll cut those up and show you how to do that. Then we have some flowering mums Then we have the witch's broom, which is a yellow flowering plant that's pretty neat in the summertime. And then we have a wisteria, which wisteria will normally root by pinning it to the ground as a runner. And I'll show you how to do a cutting of that and see how that turns out for us. And we'll be using rooting hormone. I have some poured out here to add some of that. And these are ones I've started about 2 weeks ago or so, and they're starting to have some growth on them. You don't want to pull them out, but we'll go over that in a little bit. Okay, we're going to start with the lavender. You want a piece that actually has some of the wood on there. So we're going to take this chunk off right there, here, alright, so we have some wood on there. We're going to strip these bottom leaves off. The tops of these are not going to grow because they already have some flowers on them, or the flowers were cut off. So we're going to nip those back to 2 buds above the ground level where these will be. Alright, so what we have there. Alright. Then what you do is you take the bleed part and you kind of just scrape right there. Just scrape there. And that's just exposing some place of the wood there. And you dip that in a rooting hormone so it's covered, and it covers that new place you just scraped. That's where the roots are going to be able to come out. And you stick them in random spots of the soil. And you'll have about a 50% success rate with most of these cuttings that we're going to do today. So you want to plant way more than what you're going to want, and from there, if you have success, you'll pull some out in about 5 to 6 weeks. Ones you'll really see that are starting to have some green growth, and ones that aren't having green growth, then those would be removed. Don't remove anything to check on it in between, because you're going to just rip any of the micro roots off. Here we're just, everybody, you got to be patient, and you'll know when there's new growth coming. Give it another couple weeks, and then from there you'll be able to see if the plant actually started growing on its own. And in about 6 to 10 weeks after that, you can probably transplant them. The roots are going to be strong enough at that point. Alright, so that's some of the lavender. You're just nicking that, I don't know if you can see that there, you're just nicking that open and then having that into the rooting hormone, which is just a powder, and it's going to force it to root in that area. Put that down in the soil. Similar with the witch's broom. It's kind of more of a succulent style plant. It does have a little bit of green leaves. Almost looks like a rosemary if you look at it a little closer. The top of this is not going to show signs of growth until the leaf starts going, so you can pull a couple off. This one doesn't have many side leaves, so I'd probably pick some that have a couple side leaves left on them, like there. try this piece here, and again you're just going to nick that area there, and this is a little bit of the second year growth. I'll try this over here again. And some of the ones I did last week, or a couple weeks ago, sorry. This is a boxwood bush. Here is the rose that I have out. It's a Lincoln rose, and you can start seeing that there's some actual buds coming there. The witch's broom was actually still green after a few weeks, so that one might take. These are some lavenders that have been in there, and you can see that they're starting to change the color and actually seeing some little signs of growth on the sides there. I can try to get a close-up of that later on. And I used some other potting soil, so it has a couple tomatoes seeds that didn't want to sprout in the spring. Alright, mums. They're one of the fall blooming plants. Most of you guys probably have them throughout the country, but I'm going to just take side branch off here. And I have a bunch of mums on the property, so I'm not exactly sure what color these are. I think these are going to be purple, but they won't fall. They won't bloom until in the fall of next year on these cuttings here. Again, slide off. Get some of that rooting hormone. And these here I probably cut back a little bit of the old growth, so it forces the rooting to actually, if you cut back a little bit of the top growth, it promotes that there's some agitation to happen there, and it'll actually promote extra growth in the soil level. Alright, now with wisteria, I'm going to have to put this in another pot. These are not going to be deep enough to get in between the nodes. But you have a node here that would be underground, and here would be an underground node. So you would break that off. And just there. And then you find some loose soil, and I just sprinkle that right down through. We're going to put that in one of a pot that has some loose soil in it, and we'll see if we can get that to root. Do one more lavender here. Alright, I got one more thing I want to show you here. This is my grapevine. I'm starting to actually get some good grapes in together. We're going to do this the Serpentine Method, which is where we're going to have the end that's going to come out, and then we're going to be able to get this to buckle up in between here. I'm going to plant it on the ground level so that this will end up having multiple areas, and then we'll snip on the back side that's going into the ground in a few weeks. But then if we can get this to serpentine and get multiple up above, we can have maybe 3 or 4 new grapevines by doing it. And what you want to do is the same thing we were doing with the other ones. We just want to nick underneath, just scraping that there, and then we were going to put some rooting hormone right into that area. And then when we plant that, we're going to have maybe 3 spots. I'll plant that on there, and then when we put soil in here, you're going to have the new growth is going to keep on going here, and then if you have a bow above there, you'll end up having some new growth coming out of these areas. And then in the fall, when everything's starting to go dormant a little bit, you would cut right close to the ground on this side here after these have rooted, and then you'll end up having 3 new grapevines. So I'll do an update on this video in about 7 weeks or so when we're heading into October, and we'll see how that plant's doing and if it's getting good green growth. And then after that roots, and then in the fall, like I said, I'll show you when I'm cutting that and dividing those up. And then next year we'd end up having 4 new, or 3 or 4 new vines, however many I can get at the serpentine underneath. Alright, thanks for watching. Please subscribe. So now what I have here is the end of the vine. I have it coming up out of here, so we'll see some growth coming here. And then I have some plant above the ground here. So we could get 2 or 3 off there. And then I have it elevated just so that it's not on the ground there. But I had one that actually over in another pot actually has rooted itself just by allowing it to grow there. So I have an extra vine this year, and then I'll extend this out as I want to extend my grapevine.